helps bring us into the present moment. A few years ago, I was invited to bring the practice of mindfulness to a local rehab center here in South Lake Tahoe, California. They use holistic and evidence-based approaches to the treatment of substance abuse. Initially, I was hesitant because I had no personal experience with addiction, but I did have my practice of mindfulness and I knew its effectiveness, so I accepted. Little did I know that 5 months later, my personal experience with addiction would change drastically. I was actually teaching a class here on campus. It was a mild evening. I had stepped outside for a break, and I noticed a text had come in from one of my most beloved family members. I still remember the words. I was found with a bag of dope and a needle in my arm. The whole family is overdoing an intervention. We would come to find out that our loved one was addicted to heroin. As things spiral, I go home to be with family. I have a plan. When I arrive, my loved one is there. I give him a huge hug, and he steps outside, and I ask if I can join him. We're sitting on a garden bench outside my mom and dad's house. It's late, near midnight, hot and humid, and the fireflies are just completing their brilliant display around us, but I don't think he notices. His mind, his body are a million miles away. I ask if I can take his hand. Sure can, he says gently. My hand slides inside his and the other rests on top. My eyes travel up his arm and I tenderly move one hand there. I breathe, he breathes, and we sit hand in hand. I can't do this, he says. I gotta get into rehab. I gotta go someplace. I encourage, okay, let's make it happen. What do we need to do? His answer is so telling. I just don't want to be alone. Okay, you won't be, I promise. The next 2 weeks present the practice opportunities of my life. Relapse, overdose, homelessness, all-nighters, and literally staying by my loved one's side until he's in a rehab center that's a good fit. The opioid epidemic has not only affected my family, it has exploded to mass proportions. A recent national study by the APA found that 1 in 3 people know someone addicted to opioids. Since the pandemic in the US, overdoses are up as high as 64%. Over 150 people die every day. What to do to help solve this crisis is contained in the story I just shared, and it involves the practice of mindfulness. Now, before we dive in, I have a disclaimer. My North Star is compassion as the #1 condition. So when I hear the words tough love, I cringe. And I think of a dear recovery friend of mine who loves to say, no tough, just love. In my years of practicing with compassion as #1, nothing has challenged my motto like addiction. It is my practice ground, and I constantly sit with this tension of keeping my heart open while offering support that is skillful. And what keeps me living compassion through the ups and the downs of addiction and recovery is my practice of mindfulness. Mindfulness, it's a hot word. We hear it all the time, but what does it actually mean? Compassionate awareness to whatever arises, not pushing away the ugly or the inconvenient. In many conversations with my loved one and those in recovery, there seems to be a commonality: using opioids to manage pain. Whereas opioids anesthetize pain and deprive us of our awareness, mindfulness provides ways of being present with pain, using pain for insight and clarity. I would like to offer 4 concrete practices that enable us to be present with addiction, no matter who is surrounded or affected by it. The mnemonic free will be our guide. Breath. Follow your breath. Breath is the focus when practicing mindfulness. Respiration, our source of life, is the supreme stabilizer of the nervous system. Even breathing oxygenates the body and releases neurotransmitters that increase clarity, focus, and calm. Even breathing also turns off the body's fight, flight, and freeze response. In situations where it's difficult to breathe evenly, other points of focus have proven effective. The interplay of lights, the sounds of birds, water, the bell, sensations in the body, such as the air moving in and out. It seems too simple, right? But a calm and balanced nervous system affects the heart's electromagnetic field. And this field has been measured 3 to 6 feet from the body. And it is encoded with our emotions. And it gets even more amazing. The Institute of Heart Math has found evidence of heart-to-heart synchronization. So as loved ones, those who support, those in recovery, we can be powerful forces of influence. Coming back to the body, coming back to the breath, our windows of tolerance to be with discomfort get longer and longer. And our resistance becomes resilience. The day after I learned of my loved one's addiction was the first day of spring. I remember looking outside my window here in Tahoe at this little snow patch, and all along the edges were these green grasses that were popping up. On the surface, it appeared barren and frozen, but beneath, so much transformation was taking place. It became very clear as I listened to water pour off the rafters of my home to speak to my loved one's life force. He was no different than springtime, alive out my window. So I began writing love letters, poems that I would send my loved one every 3 to 4 days that he would receive, open, and read. These became instrumental in the first year of his recovery because they spoke of his strengths. They spoke of hope and resilience. Texts, phone calls, conversations we shared became a collection of 109 poems entitled Love Letters to an Addict, and I would like to read you 2 of them today. You are not only an addict, you are my sister, brother, mother, father, daughter, son, lover, friend. A newborn, mere months old, belly upturned toward sky, with chubby baby legs splayed wide. Entire body open and free on grandma's white and green checkered quilt. Arms wave a jerky up and down as dark, downy head rolls back and forth and steadies. Black eyes latch onto mine, and I am caught entirely off guard by a surge of love so strong, the likes of which I've never felt in my 22 years. It's been only 1 hour since we've officially met, but your goofy grin smiles like I'm your familiar friend. You are not my baby. I shall never have children. Yet somehow I know what it's like to belong to one another. Embrace. Our human bodies are naturally built to feel the pain of another through the miracle of mirror neurons. Deep in our brain, mirror neurons are activated when we are in the presence of suffering. These same neurons mirror the presence of peace and calm. So when someone is before us and they are struggling, it is likely that we will feel that pull. But when we know this and we can come back to our body, we can come back to our breathing, we can become a force of stability in unstable situations. In the mindfulness tradition, such a one is called bodhisattva, one whose heart is stirred by the suffering they see around them and they are moved to help. Bodhisattvas come from all directions. They can be from any walk of life. They can even be inanimate, like that little snow patch out the window that kind of nudged me awake. This next poem is an excerpt from a day when my loved one and I received their support. Bodhisattvas on Franklin Street. I walk towards you, breathing in, each step calm, breathing out. I am the peace flag. You begin to sob, gather in my arms. We drop to the curb in noonday sun as inner city bodhisattvas gather. McDonald's workers bring out drinks, ice waters to cool the flames. Man and woman, arms full of grace, stop, bend, put down their groceries and inquire, "Are you okay?" When we assure them we are, the man challenges, "Your words say okay, but your bodies say the opposite." Smiles so tender we break open. Woman's dark hands reach out, enclose ours, hold us together. She speaks as a prophet over you. "Oh, honey, it's gonna be okay." Introductions dissolve like sunlight in air. "Young man, I've seen you around here, and next time I do, I'm gonna come up, remind you who we are." The couple pick up their bags of groceries and move on. You're convinced to go inside, get some food, dine on hamburger, French fries. You get up for a refill and literally disappear. Awake for nearly 2 days, I panic, jump straight up, move to the bathroom, past the garbage can where a young man sees my distress, locks eyes with me, and I do my best to stay calm but waste no time. Go in that bathroom, make sure no one needs help. "Yes, ma'am," he says. And in one cycle of breath, he's back. Not there. I'm relieved, but where? We look out the window and we see you standing there. That sweet, sweet man follows me outside. He walks slowly, side by side. He goes and extends his hand. "I believe you struggle with the same thing my brother struggled with. You've got to stay strong every day. You can do it, man." You reach for him, clasp hands. "My eyes, my love, your eyes are aglow." And that's when I know the movement of the bodhisattvas. As those on Franklin Street showed, we must engage. Engagement with a healthy support system is shown to be one of the most important factors in successful recovery from opioids. When the support system is strong and cared for, the addict's chance of recovery increases. Deep and authentic connections are the foundation of sobriety. This talk would be amiss if I did not mention one important last fact. Only about 10% of addicts receive treatment. Addiction surrounds us every day, yet relapse and overdose occur in isolation and silence. It is incumbent on us to face this crisis. Anyone who has turned to suffering of this magnitude knows it is easy to get overwhelmed. These 4 practices of free allow us to increase our resiliency, not only as individuals, but as a community. In closing, here is what my loved one is continuing to teach me. We are vast, far more resilient than we can imagine. Addiction keeps us dependent, alone, constantly searching outside yourself for something to somehow ease the pain. Mindfulness is a practice of opening the heart, expanding our circle of care, practicing together to tap into our boundless capacity as a community to be present with whatever arises. It's impossible to be alone in our suffering. The ripples go out and support comes from all directions. Knowing this is true freedom. The opioid epidemic is a bell of mindfulness. It is calling us to listen, to be present, to take care of ourselves, to take care of each other. The time is now. Thank you.